Welcome to Reproductive Biology. Today, we are exploring one of the most fascinating partnerships in nature, the feto-placental unit. Imagine a highly specialized factory where no single worker has all the tools to build the final product. In pregnancy, the mother, the placenta, and the fetus must work together, passing half-finished molecules back and forth to create the hormones that keep the pregnancy safe. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how this beautiful biological assembly line operates and why it is so crucial for a healthy baby. Now that we have introduced the idea of a factory, let us look at how this biological assembly line is set up. During pregnancy, the massive demand for steroid hormones cannot be met by one organ alone. The mother supplies the raw materials through her bloodstream. The placenta has some specific enzymatic machinery, but it lacks others. The fetus has the remaining tools, but cannot start the process from scratch. To survive and thrive, they must combine their cellular machinery. They pass half-finished molecules back and forth, creating a perfect partnership rather than working independently. Building on this assembly line analogy, let us formally define what we are looking at. Biologists call this cooperative system the feto-placental unit. It is a highly integrated endocrine and metabolic network. It specifically consists of three main components: the fetal adrenal glands, the fetal liver, and the maternal placenta. Neither the fetus nor the placenta can manufacture all the necessary steroid hormones independently because they each lack certain specific enzymes. By linking these three components together, the developing baby and the mother create a complete, fully functional hormone-producing network. To understand why this network is necessary, let us examine the first major biological puzzle they must solve. The placenta lacks the specific enzymes needed to manufacture estrogens from scratch. On the other hand, the fetus lacks the enzymes required to synthesize progesterone. To overcome this, the placenta pulls maternal cholesterol directly from the mother's bloodstream. It uses this cholesterol to produce progesterone. Once produced, the placenta does not keep it all. It generously shares this progesterone with the fetus, providing the essential building blocks the baby needs for the next step. Following the journey of these shared molecules, we reach the next critical phase of production. The fetus receives the precursors from the placenta and uses its own adrenal glands and liver to process them. Through this fetal machinery, the precursors are converted into a specialized molecule called DHEAS. But the fetus cannot use DHEAS as it is, so this molecule is sent back across the border to the placenta. There, the placenta uses its unique enzymes to convert DHEAS into estriol, which is the primary and most abundant estrogen of pregnancy. Let us visualize this beautiful cooperative pathway we just discussed. On the left, you see the maternal compartment supplying cholesterol. The arrow moves into the central placenta, where cholesterol becomes progesterone. Notice how the arrows then cross into the fetal compartment on the right. The fetal adrenal gland and fetal liver take over, converting these inputs into DHEAS. Finally, follow the bottom arrow as DHEAS travels back to the placenta, where the aromatase enzyme transforms it into estriol. This continuous loop perfectly illustrates the interdependent metabolic network that sustains the pregnancy. Now that we can picture the pathway, we must ask, why does this specific hormone matter so much? The hormones produced by this unit, particularly progesterone and estriol, are absolutely vital. They maintain the uterine lining, increase maternal blood flow and prevent premature uterine contractions. In clinical medicine, obstetricians measure maternal estriol levels to check on the fetus, because the fetus must actively supply the precursor DHEAS to make estriol. A healthy estriol level in the mother's blood proves that the fetal liver and adrenal glands are functioning perfectly. It is a direct, non-invasive window into the baby's health. This brings us to the mathematical representation of this biological process. The total rate of estriol production by the placenta is given by the formula RE3 equals K times C DHEAS times E aromatase. Let us break this down. RE3 is the total estriol production rate, measured in milligrams per day. The symbol K is a constant representing the baseline transport efficiency between the fetus and placenta. CDHEAS is the concentration of the precursor provided by the fetal adrenal glands. Finally, E aromatase is the activity level of the placental enzyme that performs the final conversion. If fetal stress lowers the precursor concentration, the overall estriol production drops proportionally. Before we move on, let us see this formula in action with a concrete example. We are monitoring a healthy fetus at 32 weeks. We are given a fetal DHEAS concentration of 15 units, a placental aromatase activity of 2 units, and a transport constant of 0.5. We need to calculate the daily estriol production rate. First, we substitute these given values into our established production formula. We multiply the fetal supply of 15 by the placental enzyme activity of 2, giving us an intermediate value of 30. Finally, we multiply by the efficiency constant of 0.5. This gives us a final production rate of 15 milligrams per day, representing a normal, healthy physiological rate. Now that we have used this formula to find the total production, let us understand how doctors use it in reverse during emergencies. In clinical diagnostics, we often know the final hormonal output from maternal blood tests, and we know the placental capacity, but the fetal contribution is hidden. We need to shift our formula from a simple production calculator into a powerful diagnostic tool. To do this, we start with our original equation. RE3 equals K times C DHEAS times E aromatase. Our goal is to isolate the fetal precursor concentration, CDHEAS, to mathematically prove whether the fetus is struggling. Continuing our derivation, we need to get the fetal precursor variable completely alone on one side of the equal sign. We achieve this by dividing both sides of the original equation by the product of the transport constant K and the enzyme activity E aromatase. This algebraic step isolates CDHEAS. The final rearranged formula tells us that the fetal precursor concentration equals the total estriol production divided by the product of the transport constant and the placental enzyme activity. By doing this, we can calculate the unknown fetal contribution directly from the known maternal and placental values. With our diagnostic tool ready, let us apply it to a critical clinical scenario. A mother at 36 weeks is rushed to the clinic. The placental enzyme activity remains healthy at 2.5 units, and the constant is still 0.5. However, her estriol production has plummeted to just 5 milligrams per day. We must calculate the new fetal DHEAS concentration. We substitute these known values into our newly rearranged equation. The numerator is the dangerously low estriol rate of 5. The denominator becomes the product of 0.5 and 2.5, which is 1.25. Dividing 5 by 1.25 gives us a final calculated fetal DHEAS concentration of exactly 4 units. Let us take a moment to understand the physical meaning of the answer we just calculated. The fetal DHEAS concentration is only 4 units. This is a severe and dangerous drop from the healthy baseline of 15 units we saw in earlier weeks. Because we know the placenta is still working perfectly, this mathematical result confirms that the fetal adrenal glands are failing to supply the necessary precursor molecules. A physician would immediately recognize this specific drop as a clear sign of severe fetal distress. Based on this calculation, emergency medical intervention would likely be required to save the unborn baby. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let us reinforce the most important ideas. The feto-placental unit is a brilliant evolutionary adaptation that ensures neither the mother, the placenta, nor the fetus bears the entire burden of hormone production alone. By sharing enzymes and precursor molecules, they create a robust, interdependent system. We also saw how the hormones produced, especially estriol, are direct indicators of fetal health. Finally, by mastering the mathematical relationship between these components, doctors are equipped with life-saving diagnostic tools to literally read the biochemical language of the unborn child. Excellent work today.